Hi, everybody. Welcome to the press. Welcome to this week's preview of the PGA Tour event, the Genesis Invitational at Riviera Country Club, our second consecutive signature event on the schedule. We're going to go through everything as we typically do on this show each week. All things around this event. Then we'll have an audio-only show around the magical Kenya Open, which is the DP World Tour event this week. And the LPGA is back, the Honda LPGA Thailand. Got some interesting plays for that tournament. Not so much on Kenya, but certainly do on the Thailand event. I think a couple long shots can really get home. So let's get into that on Wednesday. But today, let's get into the Genesis Invitational. Played once again this year at the Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades, California, just outside of Los Angeles, technically basically up in the hills of Los Angeles, but not the Hollywood Hills, but pretty close to the Hollywood Hills. I don't know the delineations well enough. If you ever want to watch John Mulaney's Everyone's in Los Angeles show, he'll explain it to you, but I don't have time for that. So, Riviera Country Club didn't host last year because of the wildfires in the Los Angeles area in Southern California. The wildfires got very close to Riviera, supposedly got onto the property, maybe not. We'll find out a little bit more about that here this week. Either way, it didn't do a massive amount of damage to it. If anything, just kind of on the outskirts of the property. The way that the Riviera Country Club is kind of built, the golf course is basically in a giant barranca in the ground. The biggest homes you've ever seen, $50 million homes, $40 million homes, kind of line the property from above. So you're almost always looking up at houses that are with their decks that are sitting on like 50-foot concrete pillars. It's a crazy thing. I mean, I've played there once. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done in golf before a media trip a few years ago. And absolutely great experience. It is a very difficult golf course. We'll talk about that a little bit more over the course of this, but this George C. Thomas design is incredible. It is also 62 yards longer than the last time that we saw it. They changed two holes. The 18th hole is now 499 yards, so about 25 yards longer, 24 yards longer exactly. So they've changed that tee box a little bit, and it's still an uphill tee shot, still a tough hole, but now almost 500 yards up the hill for the tee shot. And then the par 3 fourth hole, which used to be like 240 yards, is now 273 yards, or 230 something yards, is now 273 yards. It is insane. I think they only did 41 yards. That hole is so hard as it is. It's such a tough tee shot because of the way the green sits. You almost have to sling it in from the right. You have to land it short. It has to run on for those things to work. And that was with a 4-iron or a 5-iron if you were nuking it. Now you're hitting maybe a 7-wood into there. I think they're setting this up to be a drivable par 4 for the U.S. Women's Open, which will be there this year. I think they're going to use the same tees. I don't have confirmation of that. That's for another time. But those are the only two changes on the golf course. But they are massive changes. Everything else is exactly the same scorecard yardage-wise. We have 72 players in the field this week, the bare minimum. We've got a $20 million purse. Remember, this is a format change from other signature events. There is a cut to the top 50 in ties and any player within 10 shots of the lead after 2 rounds. That could technically be everybody, but it doesn't have to be. There is technically a cut here this week. So you got to be cognizant of that if you're kind of thinking about longer shot bets, which you probably aren't, but if you are, be cognizant of that. There is a cut this week. 700 FedEx Cup points to the winner. Looks like a little less in terms of the official World Golf Ranking points for first. It was 71 last week because you had 80 players. You only have 72 this week. 69.5 to the winner. Still a huge haul for a regular event. Let's get into the betting odds for this week. Again, 72 players, limited value, particularly at the top of the board. Scotty Scheffler's 3-1. I don't think that's a surprise. He's played basically 3 out of 4 rounds, or 2.5 out of 4 rounds out of the last 2 tournaments. He's played, nearly won them both. He's the best player in the world. It's not even close. There's a reason he's 3-1. Yet he's never won at Riviera. He has a couple decent finishes, but he's never done anything particularly brilliant here. Rory McIlroy's 14-1. Again, good finishes, not gotten particularly close. Driving is the strong suit of his game. That is not necessarily the skill that's most amplified here. If you look at the course breakdown, as we typically do, trying to identify course fits, very similar split, 35-65 in terms of putting to tee to green, but then you break down the tee to green piece, a lot more emphasis not only on the approach play, but also around the green. Missing these greens is brutal. The Kikuya is tough to chip through. Some of the bunkering can be really nasty. And just some of the misses are brutal. because they don't run off into nice, neat places. You either run down a hill, or you go into a barranca, or you've got a massive uphill bunker shot. You've got a chip you don't want. So it comes into play a lot here. You're going to miss. You got to miss in the right places, but ideally you're hitting a lot of greens. Xander Schauffele has a very good course record here. It's 20-1. Hideki Matsuyama is probably my pick of the week, 25-1. He's my one and done. I started with Sam Burns on Monday, and then the more I just dug into it, I was like, this has got to be Hideki. He won here the last time it was played at Riviera in 2024. He's just been brilliant this year. I mean, just absolutely fabulous. Him, Siwoo, Jake Knapp, Scotty Scheffler. Those are kind of the guys that stand out to me so far this year. They've just been consistently excellent. And Hideki loves this place. So why not? And last, I have a 50-1 on him that won here a number of years ago. Patrick Cantlay is 25-1. I was really sour on him when I first started doing my research for the week. And then realized, hey, he's been playing pretty decent. Obviously, he's a horse for course. He's played this course well over the years, being a Euclid guy. He's playing into form. I think he's interesting. Colin Morikawa, 25-1's played here well recently. Putting isn't as big of a deal here because, I mean, it's a little bit bigger of a deal than Pebble because of the POA versus Kikuya. The greens are just better here, but they are faster and trickier, which I don't think necessarily works to his advantage. Russell Henley is 25-1. Pass. Cameron Young, 30-1 with Chris Gotterup. I don't think there's a big benefit in Gotterup's game here. I don't think that there is, but it wouldn't be a surprise. Siwoo Kim has been unbelievable this year. Just unbelievably good golf. 35-1. He doesn't have a great track record here, but how do you shun a guy who's just been playing fabulous golf? Sam Burns has been playing pretty well. I think if the greens get up to the speed that I think they do, he is a very good situation for this week. He was my one and done originally for a reason. Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland has a surprisingly good record here. 35-1. Harris English. All right. Jake Knapp. I'd rather take Jake Knapp at this point. He has been great everywhere this year. It's been really cool to watch. He's developed into a very consistent player, kind of realizing his potential. I think he could be a force here this week. Skip over some of the 40s. Your defending champion technically is Ludwig Aubert, who won at Torrey Pines. I think he's completely lost at the moment, 45-1. I would rather go after a Minwoo Lee or a Sepp Straka, 45-1. Adam Scott got the invite to come play here. He's a multi-time champion, 55-1. Akshay Bhatia, I would rather pick. He can work the ball. I think being able to work the ball here comfortably goes a long way on this golf course. You need to have a cut in places. You need to have a draw in places just to be able to play this golf course the way it's supposed to be played. You don't have to, but it would sure be beneficial. And I think Akshay can work the ball pretty well. Jason Day has a decent record here, but I'm going to skip on him and really anybody else on the rest of this page. No thank you to Keegan. Spieth showed some things. There's something there that might be working, but I don't think it's there all the way fully developed yet. But maybe in a few weeks we'll come back to him. Maybe around the Players, get interested in that. 60-1. Shane Lowry, 65-1. He has a pretty good percentage of top 20 finishes in the last 50 events play on the PGA Tour schedule. He's in above that 45% mark that we're looking at. So, maybe he's a derivative play, but he doesn't really have a lot on this golf course. I want to show you the model for this week. Again, numbers inserted, top 10 players. I don't think any of this is a surprise or very much of a change from last week, other than Morikawa jumps up. But you had Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantlay, who, again, has always been a prolific gainer of strokes. But the stuff that matters, when it matters the most, he kind of seems to wilt a little bit and has for a couple of years now. But he's been finishing pretty well. Sepp Straka, Colin Morikawa, Hideki Matsuyama. Honestly, one more good week. Hideki's probably 6th or 5th. And then you got Shane Lowry. Again, consistent player, lots of good finishes, hardly ever a threat to win. Rest of the betting odds, there's 2 more graphics of this, but this is the next kind of level of the field. Ryan Gerard and Pearson Coody, guys who have had lovely years so far. Both 65-1. I kind of would take Coody at this point. I just feel like he's locked in, man. Max Homa won me a lot of money here a few years ago, 4 years ago, I guess it was. Well, 5 years ago now. He was 100 to 1 bet, and he won me $5,000 that week. He's 70 to 1 here. I don't think he's a better player than he was then, but things start to kind of work out. But he is like your ultimate horse for course. He loves playing Riviera, just loves it. He's got a lot on the line this year. This is probably his chance to kind of put a stake in the ground that, hey, I'm not going away, at least quietly. Taylor Pendrith is 80 to 1. Kurt Kitayama kind of lines up with this golf course pretty well at 80 to 1. I was kind of surprised about that doing some research. Jacob Bridgman has been fantastic the last month. I don't like him to win because I don't typically like guys who haven't seen a lot of this course competitively to win, but he could be an interesting top 10 or 20 play. Sahith Theegala at 90 to 1. I probably will have a position on him this week. I just like what I've seen from him this year. He seems to be in a happy, good place and is playing good golf, healthy golf. That's important. Ryu Hisatsune, 125 to 1. Guy's not going away. He's played great at Phoenix, played great at Pebble. Wasn't perfect on Sunday. I understand all of that, but I would probably bet him on a 10 or a 20. But again, not a ton of experience on this golf course. I think you need experience on this golf course to feel comfortable. Matt McCarty, 125 to 1, maybe slowing down a little bit, maybe starting to tire out a little bit. So I'm going to lay off of him. I do like him a ton, but I think he's got to take a couple weeks off. But he's obviously not going to take a $20 million event off the table. Ryan Fox in 150 to 1. I love betting him. I'm not betting him here this week. Marco Penge, 150 to 1. Again, needs some more seasoning. Aaron Rye, 150 to 1. Would have intrigued me 2 years ago, but doesn't currently. And then here's the rest of the field. So you got Tom Hoagie at 150 to 1 this is at the Superbook, the Westgate. I've found him at 200 and 250. If you can get more than 150 is probably a little too short, but if you can find him 200, 250, slam it. He's playing well. He seems to play well in this event, particularly when he plays well at Pebble. It is a little bit of a long golf course for him, but he's such a great ball striker. This is a ball striker's golf course. If you're going to get a weird winner, I think it could be him. I think Andrew Novak can be a fit as well of the players on this page. Nico Echeverria got himself in a position a little bit, at least to think about it on Sunday at Pebble. I'm not saying he's going to do anything special with it, but it's something to think about. Here's the Riv scorecard. We mentioned they added 63 yards. This golf course, the first two holes are meant to be played as a par 9. People complain the first hole is a par 5, the easiest par 5 in the world. The day I played it, we you play from the tippy top, right? It was a driver 8-iron. But the next hole played into the wind, and it was, 450 up the hill, whatever it is. Really hard hole. The green is not forgiving. If you miss to the left, you're toast. If you miss to the right, you might be on the top of the hill, and you're really toast. It's a tough ask. There's really not a lot of relief on the golf. I think the third hole is a little bit probably your first truly accessible hole where it doesn't feel like you're losing. No, I don't know. After the first hole. Second hole is very hard. Third hole is pretty gettable. Fourth, very hard. 5's kind of tricky. 6 is tricky. 7, 8, 9, I liked a lot, but 7's kind of tricky. 9's a tough hole if you don't get it on the proper level. And then playing the backside, 10's amazing. 10's one of the greatest holes in the world. 11's a great par 5, but just simple questions. Can you hit it straight twice? 12's demanding. 13's demanding. 14, 15, even 16. Those are fun holes. 17's a fun hole. 18's a tough ask, man. Tough out. It's a really tough golf course. Really, really enjoyable. Here are horses for courses. So guys who have finished at Riv, so I took 2025 out of it, at Riv in the last 5 playings multiple times in the top 15. Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Jason Day, Harris English, Tom Hoagie, Max Homa, Victor Hovland, Hideki Matsuyama, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, and Scotty Scheffler, highlighting Xander Schauffele and Max Homa as the guys who have more than 2 of such finishes. So those are kind of your super horses for courses here this week. We talked about course fits, very similar in profile and general breakdown between Pebble and here, but there's a lot more emphasis on the short game and approach play at this golf course. So similar, very similar, not too different in terms of course fit, but a couple guys came off. One guy got in. I put Sepp Strack in here because his breakdown is a little bit different. in terms of how he gains strokes off the tee versus on the approach. Didn't fit as well. Pebble fits well here, I think. And then guys who are just playing well, guys who have been in the top 15 multiple times in the last 5 PGA Tour events played. This is a signature event. You would expect the best of the best. Also, these are signature events, so you had one event where you had to beat fewer players, right? No cut. But all the other events have a cut. So to get to multiple of these, you had to do something in an event with a cut. So Jacob Bridgman, Cantlay, Cootie, Fitz, Gerard, Goddard, his 2 top 15s are wins. Hisetsune, Tom Hoge again, Siwoo Kim, fabulous. Jake Knapp, fabulous. Hideki playing incredible. Matt McNeely playing pretty well. Scotty Scheffler, Sahith Theegala. Past champions of this event, again, taking out Ludwig last year, doing that at Torrey. Here are your last 5 at Riv, Hideki Matsuyama, John Rahm, Joaquin Niemann, Max Homa, Adam Scott. Key between all of them, bad putters, right? Bad putters. I mean, Rahm's an okay putter, but everyone else, bad putters. Ball strikers. Now, Homa's got a decent short game, and he seems to like it here. But you got to be a ball striker. Don't have to be a long driver, but you got to be a ball striker to play well on this golf course. You got to get it in play. All right. Big graphic of the week, the short-term form graphic. Kind of had to expand it this week because there are way too many players. We had to make it harder to get on this list. Way too many players that are gaining 1.4 strokes in the aggregate per round in the last 10 PGA Tour events played. We used to have it at 1.2. Now it's 1.4. We had to bump up the quality strokes gain one as well from 1.5 to 1.7. We kept the stroke gain approach at 0.6 strokes gained per round in those last 10 PGA Tour events played, whatever ones you played in. That metric has not changed. That's a hard one to get into, to be honest. But there's a lot of names. There were 16 names on that list this week at that raised metric. If we did the original, there were 22. So you've got a lot of players playing good golf. If we did the QSG at 1.5, you would have had 4 or 5 more names on here. Again, had to kind of pare it down a little bit. But if you see your name on 3 lists, you're doing great. So Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler is actually not quite on this list on the approach side of it. And that's because he doesn't have enough measured rounds, because the American Express, you only get, 2 measured rounds. So that was not working in his favor. Interestingly enough, they did keep the statistics for Spyglass. So that's going to kind of throw a twist in things, but we'll work through that. But you see a lot of guys who are just playing pretty decent golf. Russell Henley's playing great overall, but not great so far this year. Shane Lowry fits that list. Again, not great currently, but not bad. Sepp Straka's playing great. Obviously, Scotty, we mentioned him. Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose a winner. We mentioned Matt McCarty having a lovely year. But he's done a lot of his damage, particularly in the fall, in the way weaker events, but still playing very well on the aggregate. So, take from that what you will. He's still playing well, just maybe not against the elite competition factored into it. And then guys who are just playing well on the approach, a lot of them are the same guys on this list. Lucas Glover is always an approach guy. He's almost always on this list and not on any of the others. Siwoo's been incredible. He's just fantastic. He actually just fell just short of the 1.4 metric and the 1.7 metric, even though he finishes great all the time. Henley, Ricky Fowler playing well on the approach. You saw that with him being on the leaderboard at Pebble and not being able to close the deal. But that part of it is there. And then Sepp Straka is there as well. So a lot of names there to consider. A long list of guys playing well. It's going to be a tough week. But again, I would factor in ball striking above all else. And then this is an interesting play this weekend. 72 players, kind of hard to look for value plays on 10s and 20s. But these are guys who are strokes gained, tee to green, low variance players. So high strokes gained, tee to green, relatively smooth curve. These guys are doing it week in and week out very similarly. They're who you expect. Scotty Scheffler, Siwoo Kim, Tommy Fleetwood. Kurt Kitayama was a surprise on this list to me. JJ Spawn and Adam Scott. Again, Spawn, not so great start to the year, but he might have a down year after having a year of his life last year. It's just reality. And then top 20 percentage leaders in the last 50 PGA Tour events played, whatever of those you played, were you in the top 20, 45% of the time or more? This is your list. A lot of guys. No one really stands out here to me as a huge value other than Keegan Bradley, maybe. He always seems to get shunned. Maybe Shane Lowry. I mean, right on the 50% mark. So if you're looking for a couple of guys, maybe on a derivative bet, that's probably the extent of it for you. But you've got a lot to work with this week. I mean, you've got some longer shots in Hoagie and Novak that I think are interesting. You've got guys that are just playing well, super consistent golf at the top with obviously Scheffler, Siwoo. Hideki is going to be your horse for course play. Do you look for a mid guy like a Jacob Bridgman? Do you decide you want to kind of go with somebody who's playing very well this year, but a little bit in that mid, like Jake Knapp? Do you go with a Matt McCarty kind of guy? Do you go and take a gander at Max Homa at 70-1? Of course, he absolutely loves and plays great at. They got a lot of choices this week. I'm going to have a position on Tom Hoagie, probably Andrew Novak, just so I want to have some longer shots. And then I'm going to probably be on Hideki. Maybe. I'm kind of interested in Matt Fitzpatrick, but I'm probably just going to stick with my Sam Burns play. And then probably get on Jake Knapp just because he's riding the wave a little bit. And we'll see how that all works out. That's going to do it for us today on the show. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We'll have one more show. We're going to talk about the Magical Kenya Open and the Honda LPGA Thailand in a voice-only show, audio-only show that'll be available wherever you get your podcasts. If you have any questions, get a hold of me, Ryan at thegolfnewsnet.com. You can join Golf Newsnet for $40 for 1 year, $70 for 2 years, or $100 for 3 years over at golfnewsnet.com. Get a hold of me with any questions that you have. If you're a member, happy to talk to you about fantasy golf, DFS, you name it. Love talking about this stuff. So it's great to connect with you when there's the opportunity. Good luck with all your bets this week. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time right here on The Press.